Good morning. Rocking the layers today. And the hair is an extra warming layer. I've also got my thermos mug and my tea as usual. And I continue to advocate for thermos mugs. Any brand will do, as long as they work. Something that I was doing for a while and then stopped doing, and I might start up again if people are interested, is doing a financial audit of my life. I was trying to do with these every month, but it's not always that interesting. I don't think it's that interesting. However, I thought that now that there are more people watching the channel, now that there are more people looking for ideas and finding the stuff that I do quite useful, I thought I would do an end of year financial audit. It's now the middle of December. I'm going to record this in possibly three sections, because most of my yearly expenses have now been paid for. They've all been covered. So those prices aren't going to change, but there are one or two things that have still yet to come in as final, such as my petrol bill, my out-of-pocket expenses might still change a little bit, and my food bill. I am going to do a separate food audit because I think that's a really important one, showing how I get my food bill as low as I do and what tactics I use to do that, because I think people will find that useful, although I will mention it within this audit as a thing. The main reason I'm doing this in chunks and not all at once is because at the point where my spreadsheets are finalised for the end of the year, I won't be here. I will be at my parents', and I'm going to have very limited time to be able to sit with my laptop and talk into a camera. And then if I don't do it until I'm back in the new year, it's going to be the second week of January by the time I get this out. So I wanted to have this done so that, like, 1st of January, I can, or as close to 1st of January as possible, or 31st December, depending on how organised I am, I can get this loaded up so you can watch it, and hopefully it'll be of use to you. I'm going to talk about the money that I've spent this year on things, and most of my expenses are things that I need or I consider to be needed. I don't have a lot, really, any what I would consider frivolous spending. I'm not really a spender anyway. I used to be a whole shopper. Saturday morning, down to Primark, down to New Look, load up the bags with rubbish, bring it back, decide I don't want half of it, sits in the cupboard for 10 years. That has happened, and that's one of the reasons Vintage has done quite well this year, is because some of that stuff has sat in cupboards and in storage bags underneath my bed for quite a long time. And basically because I thought, oh, one day I'll fit back into that. It's not happening. Some of this stuff is really old. Anyway, so I'm just going to work down my list in no particular order. Well, the order of the list is no particular order in terms of finances. So the first thing I'm going to start with is rent. I am lucky that my rent has not gone up significantly since I moved into my flat. I have a 2-bedroom flat. When I moved in here in 2018, it was £495 a month. It rose in 2022 by £50, so it went up to 550 whatever. This year it has gone up another 50. I'm now paying 600 a month for my rent, which compared to many people I know is still remarkably cheap. But I am in the north of England. I am not in the expensive south, nor will I ever be at this rate, despite all my family being down there, and like lots of people who have moved away from home and then want to move back, they find they can't. I know this is a big problem in areas like Cornwall, where it's almost impossible for people to go and move back home and rent there now because of things like Airbnb taking over. So my entire rent for this year came to £6,750. That is a rise this year of £645 in total. So that's gone up. I mean, I consider myself lucky. I think the reason it's not gone up much is because when you look at the dates of the age of this block that I live in, it's coming up to what would be considered the end of a mortgage. And if it was a build, I suspect it was a build to rent mortgage, and that they're no longer paying for a mortgage, and that's why our rent has only gone up a small amount, because it's probably just covering the rise in basic costs and property fees and that sort of thing. Otherwise, I would imagine it would have gone up a lot more than that, because our landlord is not known for being generous with his money. Okay, so gas and electric I have mentioned before. I am basing my spend purely on my direct debits, not on my actual usage, because it's the direct debit that goes out of my bank. And that has come to £431.16, and that has not gone up in the last year. Council tax. My council tax this year was £1,037. That was a rise on last year of £48.32. My water bill this year, I'm on a water meter, so again it's something else that I have pretty good control over. I'm very good with, like in summer, with grey water reusage, for watering the plants outside and all that sort of thing. I'm really careful about how much water I use, running water, things like that. I don't have the hot water running in my flat. When the boiler goes off in April, that's it done. But for the amount of hot water I need, it's quicker and cheaper for me to boil a kettle on the hob. I fill up 2 thermos flasks in the morning, and then in the evening I just do my washing up in the evening, and I just boil half a kettle, and that does the job. That's absolutely fine. So my water bill has actually gone down this year. So this year it was £152.68, and that's gone down by £8.70 based on last year. My car insurance also went down this year, remarkably. I'm with eSure. I have a fully comprehensive package. I have been driving for more years than I can remember. The last few years I have cut my driving mileage down to 5,000, because particularly where petrol has got very high, I do my best to not use the car. I need it for those long journeys, otherwise I'd never see family. And now that I'm doing the cleaning work, I am having to use my car once a week, but it's only about 9 miles. So my car doesn't get an awful lot of usage, but when it gets those long journeys, they are long journeys. So my car insurance this year was £241.60, and that's gone down by £16.19. Insurance. So I have 2 kinds of insurance aside from car. One is the home contents insurance on my flat. This one really irritates me because it's tied to my rental agreement, so I have to have contents insurance, which doesn't matter if it covers me, but it needs to cover the fixtures and fittings that belong to the flat, which therefore belong to my landlord. That's fair enough, but I have to go with the lettings, the insurance company that they use, so I can't shop around, which is really annoying, because it means that I can't haggle. I've got my personal contents insurance down to the bare minimum. They won't insure me for any less, because every year it kept going up. This year it has not gone up. I don't know what's happening next year, but it has not gone up this year. So it remains at £200.24. That covers me for the absolute minimum based on my personal stuff. Most of the things I own in this flat are so old they probably wouldn't even replace them anyway. My TV was gifted to me second hand. I have no idea how old that is. It's got to be at least 10 years old. My phone is 5 years old. My laptop is 5 years old. They won't cover stuff like that anyway. Most of my clothes are more than 10 years old now. So I don't worry about that too much. The basics are covered. If the flat burnt down, I've got to get something back. The other insurance I have is business insurance, because I want all my business stock and my machinery, etc. covered, and I pay £331.15 for that from the business. My business doesn't earn an awful lot of money, but it is covering its expenses. It's not costing me anything because I work from home. I don't have rental, and it's very self-sufficient. I literally pay for insurance and website, and then fees when I actually sell something. So it's not costing me any money to run. That's the important thing. I could drop the insurance and take a risk, but again, if the flat burns down, my business, everything has gone. Literally everything. I'd have to start again from scratch. So I'm covered for loss of earnings if I'm ill. I'm covered for stock, which is covered for the level of stock that I have. I'm covered for tools and machinery because I have a semi-industrial sewing machine, and I have overlockers and all sorts of things that will cost money to replace. So yeah, £331 for my business insurance. For my car is 12 years old. I have always taken my car to the main dealer for MOT, service and any other repairs. It gives me peace of mind. I have owned a lot of second-hand cars in my time. I have been through quite a lot of private garages with varying degrees of satisfaction. And when I bought my car brand new in 2012, it was a 3-year hire purchase, and then you decided if you were going to own the car, and then I kept the car, so I've had it for 12 years. But I've kept up the service package because it gives me the peace of mind. It means I'm getting a service that if something goes wrong or they make a mistake, somebody has to answer to it, rather than some little backstreet garage who just says, oh, it was your fault, or I'm not going to do anything about it, which has happened to me in the past. So I pay £288 a month into a service package, and I pay that on a monthly basis. It's like £26 a month. That also has not gone up for quite a while. And that goes in every month, and at the end of the year I take my car in for its MOT and its service, and unless there's something unusual that needs doing or something that's out of the range of service, such as tyres, it might be something like, I think oil changes don't count, but for the most part I go in there, I have an MOT and a service, and I come out having spent no money because it's already been paid for. That's a really good peace of mind for me. My car doesn't cost an enormous amount to run. I do actually have a spreadsheet for the car, and I can see that this year, in its entirety, this includes my car tax, which is only £20 because it's a small car, and my insurance, which I've already mentioned, the entirety, and the breakdown cover, which I will mention in a minute. The entirety of everything to keep my car on the road has cost me £711.09 this year, which is pretty good. I've had to have a new headlight bulb, I've had a couple of tyres, I had to have my hazard light switch done. The service came to, I think it was £240, so that's all covered in the service package. The car tax is £20, and obviously insurance. So I don't mind that. That is less than I paid last year because I had a couple of things go wrong last year that needed doing. Nothing major. The year before that, I had a new battery put in. The year before that, I had some big stuff go wrong. I had to have a new exhaust. Ugh, that was fun. But, you know, it's a 12-year-old car. I don't consider those things to be unusual for its age. It lives out all year. There's no garage. I think it's doing pretty well considering. And touch wood, there is wood here. Touch wood, my car has been an absolute dream, and I absolutely love it, and I never want it to ever go away. So that's, yeah, £288 will cover my my service and my MOT, all in, done. My mobile phone, back in, I think, it's probably been about 5 years now, I switched from EE because their prices were a joke, and I know that mobile phone prices are still a joke, and I switched over to Smarty, who were doing one of these lifetime deals at the time. So I pay £18.75 a month for my mobile service. Now, I don't get contracts. I buy my phone handsets separately, usually off eBay, brand new but out of spec. So I bought my Samsung Galaxy S7, I think it was in 2019, and I paid, I think it's something like £180, and it was brand new out of the box, never given me a day of trouble. And I bought that on eBay. So I pay £18.75 a month for my phone tariff. That gives me the standard stuff, so unlimited calls, unlimited texts, I get unlimited internet. Now, I don't have Wi-Fi at home, I just run off the 4G on my phone, and I use a lot of gigabytes. I mean, some months it's like 500 or 600 gigabytes if I'm downloading films, or now that I'm doing, I mean, I dread to think, now I'm doing YouTube a lot, how much I'm using. I can have a look, but I just haven't. So I pay, what I do, I split it halfway between personal and I put half of it on the business, because I use one phone equally for everything, because I don't need a separate business phone, it would be a waste of money. So my personal spend on my phone is £112.50, and then the other half gets claimed on the business. Car breakdown. I don't go with the big companies, they're too expensive for what I do, or should I say don't need, but I like to have peace of mind. So I have often used small companies. I've been using one called Emergency Assist for a few years now. Their prices have gone up a lot. I got a special discount last year, so last year's breakdown cover was £28.75. That's gone up by £16.67 this year, and has cost me £45.42. I can shop around. I didn't find a better deal this year, but we'll see what happens next year. I'm dreading the prices next year, because I hear that everything has gone through the roof. So we'll see what happens. Let's have a look. What else? I have an everything else column, which is basically everything else, and that's anything that I've spent that hasn't been covered in what I've just spoken about. So that will cover household non-food, so cleaning materials, anything that isn't actual eaten food that I buy in a supermarket. It covers any medical, so I might buy paracetamol, things like that. The dentist, I have to go to the dentist every 3 months. It costs me about £330 a year. Money well spent for mistakes made in my younger life. So that comes in under that. Any presents, so that includes that Christmas budget that I've recently posted about, any birthdays, any cards, the lot. Any food eaten out, so if I go to a restaurant I'll get a takeaway, which never happens, so I'm not getting any of that. Any DIY, so for instance when I was making those shelves and I bought that wood filler, that sort of thing. Anything for the garden, I might buy seeds, I've bought seeds, new earth, anything that I really need, that includes that. Any personal sales, so if I sell anything that's a personal item of mine, I sell it on eBay, and I've sold a few things this year, not an awful lot. The postage costs will be on there, even though that gets claimed back as part of the sale, and I have a sales section so that it all kind of balances itself out. Most of the stuff that I'm selling personally at the moment, I'm selling on Vinted, and you don't have to pay for postage on Vinted. That's all done by the buyer. And again, anything on the car that doesn't come under car insurance, and the service package, so any extra repairs, bits and pieces, comes under that. So far this year, my outstanding bill for everything else has come to £933.98. That may change by the end of the year. There might be a few odd things that I need to buy in the next couple of weeks. In fact, I've been to the post office this morning and sent my parents and my brother's family's cards, so there's an extra £1.55 going on that. But last year it was £1,152, so far this year I have knocked £218.12 off my everything else category. Now I have two other categories. One is food, which I'm going to do separately because it's a lot more involved than just saying, here's what I spent, here's what I saved. But my food bill is considerably cheaper than last year, and that's because I have just got better at saving money. I have become more refined in the way I do it. It was only really last year that I got my head around cashback apps and now utilise those very regularly, so that's made a huge difference. The other category is petrol. Now, I'm saving that for the end of the year because obviously I'm going away and I'm going to have to, although I have a full tank of petrol at the moment, I am going to have to fill up to get home again, and filling up from the south will be fun because it'll be more expensive. However, I do have a double points on Nectar when I spend over £35 on petrol before the 27th of December, which means that while I'm down at my parents', I'll have time to get over to the Sainsbury's, buy my petrol and claw back a little bit on the Nectar card. So I'm going to hold off on that. What I have spent to date on petrol this year is £325.71. Now, petrol prices have come down a lot on last year. So last year, when I was still not spending a lot on petrol, I was still trying to use the car as little as possible. It cost me £550.16. I now only use my car once a week, and that's for the cleaning, and that's only been since, I think, September. So this year, at the moment, I have saved £224.45 on my petrol, but that's going to change a little bit because I will be spending a little bit. That's my outgoings. When I look at my total outgoings for this year, as of the 14th of December, it comes to £12,506.76. That is about £400 up on last year, which was £12,150.10. So not ideal, but equally my income has gone up I would say for me reasonably significantly this year. So I'm going to do a separate section on income, because my income has changed quite a bit this year for several reasons, and it's changed for the positive. You know, we're still at the lower end income-wise, but it means that this year, for the first time since I've lived in this flat, I've broken even. And in fact, I have a few quid left to put into my savings account. It's not an enormous amount, but every little bit counts, and it's a step in the right direction, and it makes me feel really positive for 2024 because I can build on what I've started this year and get better at it. But I'm going to do that. I think I might actually do income as a separate vlog entry that comes after this one, because again it's quite detailed, and I've done 23 minutes on this section, and I still have to add to it later in the year. So I think that I will do a separate one on income and then do a marrying up of details at the end. But I've hopefully put some information about those outgoings at the side here, just to give a rolling look at how my year has been. I think that next year is going to be more expensive. I fear that my car insurance was going to go up, and all my big bills come out before the end of April. So now with my rent, I have explained before, but people may not know this. When I got this flat, it wasn't a 6-month tenancy, 6-month rolling tenancy, and I don't pass any financial checks, not surprisingly, because I just don't earn enough. So I agreed that I would pay the full 6-month tenancy in one go. Back in, I think, 2021, they decided would I like to go on to yearly tenancies, which I did, but I still pay in 2 6-monthly chunks. They're happy with that. So at the end of April, I will be due to pay 6 months of rent, which will be, I think it's 3,600 now. What else comes out? My council tax will be due out. My car insurance will be due out. Both the insurances for my flat and my business will be due out. Car breakdown cover will be due out. So the first 4 months of the year, I literally hemorrhage money. That's all my big bills. And then after that, I'm pretty much coasting until October when my rent is due again. So that's going to be where the shocker comes, how much those things go up by. And of course, I suspect that my gas and electric direct debit will go up, as I've previously discussed. But apart from that, I think, I'm pretty sure that costs are going to go up next year on some of those bills at least. The council tax is bound to go up. I reckon my car insurance will go up. I reckon my insurances will go up. I reckon my car breakdown cover will go up, and I might shop around for that. We'll see what happens, but at the moment that's where we are. Nothing I can do about it. I can shop around, and I will use comparison sites to see if I can get better deals on things like car insurance, anything where I can swap for a cheaper deal, and I can find one. That's the problem. I will. But so that's this section done. Middle of December in the chilly north of England.